Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells, and this is episode 115 with my guest, Brianna Pastor. Brianna and I talk about that beautiful moment when we find community. We talk about internalized trauma. We talk about Brianna's experience coming out as gay in a house of Jehovah's Witnesses and healing through poetry. Brianna is a writer and poet, and you should absolutely follow her on Instagram at Brianna Pastor, BriannaPastor. Go give her a follow. She's a lovely human, a lovely feely human. So yeah, before we get to the episode, it's February 10th, Feely Humans, and 3 weeks are left in the Feely Human Collective crowdfunding campaign. Can we get to $10,000? Can we make our goal of 20? I don't know, maybe. But if you haven't checked it out, go to feelyhumans.co. It's on Indiegogo. That'll redirect you there. Or you can just go to the link in You, Me, Empathies or Feely Human at Feely Human at You, Me, Empathy on Instagram. The link in bio, that will take you to the Indiegogo campaign. The Feely Human Collective is a new collaborative mental health community designed to allow each of us to tap into our natural capacity for empathy and vulnerability and emotional wayfinding. It's about education. It's about growing a community. It's about really allowing ourselves to a safe space to kind of go inward and look at our heart and grow our heart and grow our capacity for love and empathy. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. We have 3 weeks left. I'd love to raise some more money. Go to feelyhumans.co. And if you can't support it financially, please share. That would mean the world to me. And if you want to support the podcast, leave a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. That definitely helps out the podcast. Please do it if you haven't yet. And make sure to follow me at You, Me, Empathy on Instagram and Twitter, at Feely Human on Instagram and Twitter. And before we get to the episode, one more thing. At the end of the show, I mentioned my empathy heroes, Michelle and Connor. And Michelle, if you're listening to this, your kid's name is actually Cooper, and I called him Connor, and I know his name is Cooper, and I guess it's because I had just started hanging out with you guys, and I don't know, I royally fucked up, and I apologize. And Cooper, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I know your name's Cooper, and Cooper is a better name than Connor. So I'm sorry, Cooper. I'm sorry, Michelle. You're still my empathy heroes. And you'll hear that in the episode, even though I call your son Connor. Okay, let's get to the episode. This is episode 115 on Healing Through Poetry with Brianna Pastor.
La la la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic. and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. Yumi Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I am a fallen oak leaf floating on the feely winds of time with empath, poet, and safe space creator, Brianna Pastor. Hello, Brianna.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Did I get your last name correct?
Yes, you actually did.
So it's Pastor, not I don't know what the pastor?
It would be pastor if you're speaking. I feel like it became more of the way to say it rather than with it would have an E at the end.
Yes.
But yeah, so pastor, it's okay.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
I'm glad you're excited. Let's do an emotional check-in. How are you feeling right now? How's your week been?
Well, in the lieu of being honest, I've actually had a very rough week, mentally. But today I would say we're about a 6. So that's better than my week has been.
Okay.
Yeah, yep.
Why has it been a rough week?
So as I have actually recently relocated to South Carolina from New Jersey about, I want to say, a little over a month ago. So I have been kind of adjusting to a new environment, and while that can be very exciting, it can also take a little bit of a toll on your mental health as far as, getting everything together and meeting new people, and the job market is very different. So
Yeah, it's a lot.
mm-hmm.
Change is hard.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is.
Yeah. And I'd imagine are you living with your parents?
At the moment, yes.
Yeah. And that's a challenge in and of itself, right?
Oh, absolutely. The challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a challenge.
Sure. Well, I'm sorry to hear about the sort of growing pains of not growing pains, just the pain of like new stuff and change. Like that's always kind of difficult, but happy to hear that things are going a little bit better today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, what kinds of jobs are you looking for?
So I have been quite around the block with jobs since I was younger. I mean, I have worked in the food service, and I have worked in retail, and I have also I have my certification degree from like a medical billing and coding vocational school. So, and I'm also in school getting my degree for psychology. So I have a plethora of things that I have done.
You're a Renaissance woman.
So around here, there are not many, unless you go outside of where I'm located. So that would be like going to 30 minutes out to Greenville, which would be the city area of where I am. There's not many, doctor's offices or hospitals that I can perform a medical job. You'd have to drive pretty far out. So right now I've been looking into anything like a couple coffee shops around here, some reception jobs, anything. I fully believe that if you threw me into anything, I could kind of grasp it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been looking, keeping my options open as far as my potential goes.
What fills your heart in terms of vocation? Do you know yet?
Yeah, I do. So I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker.
Okay.
So that can't quite not a job I can just do around here. I will eventually build up to it. But I've always wanted to, I don't think it has one specific job title, but I've always wanted to do something with the way I feel about the world and my writing and what I learn and how I feel about mental health. I've always wanted to either open up my own wellness center or do something in that regard,
Mm.
definitely relating around mental health and wellness. So that would make me very happy.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's totally achievable, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it'll take a lot of hard work, but it will definitely be worth it in the long run.
100%. And you mentioned you're in school right now studying psychology?
Yes, I am. I'm about 6 classes away from my associate's degree. I had started a little bit later than everybody else my age. But so after that, I would like to go for my bachelor's. And if I like it and I feel like it's still what I want at that time, then I will most likely go for my master's.
Exciting.
Yeah, very, very exciting stuff.
We need more feely humans in the psychology field.
You know, I can't agree with that more. For sure. And I feel like the more feely humans that do go into the psychology field will open up, I feel like, a new generation of making getting help much easier,
Mm-hmm.
which is very important.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for your future. That's great. I mean, you're in a transition period now, but you're young. You know, you've got lots of joy ahead of you,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Lots of
exciting.
learning.
Yeah. This week, I've just been a couple of things. I've been working on this business thing, as I keep alluding to with the audience, all you feely humans out there. I'm being very cryptic, and I apologize. When I think maybe even, but by the time this episode goes out, you'll already, I might have already announced sort of the initial sort of phase of my plan. So that's exciting. But yeah, I've just been sort of overwhelmed and trying to take it one day at a time because I've been working my butt off, and it's been a lot of work, and it's just been overwhelming. And I keep reminding myself that I am capable and I can do it, but I get into these modes of thinking, and I wonder if you can relate to this, Bree, where I just question everything I'm doing, and I feel worthless, and I feel not worthy of the pursuit, right? And I feel like whatever. It's just a feeling of failing, right? And not being worthy. And so I've been trying to kind of like break that cycle and not vacillate so viciously between the two sort of modes of thinking, one being sort of not feeling worthy and the other side being, hey, you can do this, keep going, baby steps, one day at a time, all these things. So just trying to kind of clear up that mantra in my head,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I want to say that I'm sorry that you struggle and go through those thoughts. I absolutely understand the feeling of one day being on one track and on the next day feeling so almost discouraged,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and having the thought that you are not worthy. That is actually one aspect of my mental health that I struggle with the most. So, one thing that someone had said to me, and maybe this will provide you with some clarity on those days. A good friend had once said to me that when you are feeling discouraged and you're not feeling worthy, it is from partly could be from an expectation, or you feel like you're not doing enough, and then you start having those thoughts, or you feel like it's not good enough and you start having those thoughts again. But something that she had said to me that has always stuck with me is to keep reminding yourself of your intentions. You're not doing it for anyone else, you're doing it to help someone else, and in turn to help yourself.
Yeah.
So when you're having a rough day and you're feeling like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Is it worth it? Am I worth it? You have to remind, almost kind of bring yourself back to earth and check yourself and say, my intention here is to help people. That's what matters, and that's what I'm doing. And I know I'm doing good in the world, and I know I'm good,
Yeah. No, I thank you for that empathy. That's very beautifully said. It's so interesting how because I hear you saying that, and of course I'm nodding along because I've said those things to myself, right?
Mhm.
But it's so much easier to take it from someone else because we're always so hard on ourselves. But I think the point about holding on to the intent, I put like the mantra that I've been using is like, hold on to your why. Hold on to the reason you're doing this thing in the first place. And which I like what your friend said regarding the expectation, where it kind of goes astray for myself and maybe many others who are listening, is when we start, we just get ahead of ourselves sort of mentally, and we think about, oh, how will this impact, or we play the comparison game, or we develop this expectation, and that grows, and then that becomes out of our control, because obviously we can't control anything that's even public yet, right? So it's this sort of mental game that we just have to kind of stay focused on your why, stay focused on the reason you're doing the thing, and just keep that as sort of like your sole intention as you're doing your thing.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe this will help you as well, but I try to celebrate the small victories as well. Like sometimes I try to keep up with social media as much as possible, and it's important to a degree for what you would like to do, but sometimes I do struggle with that. So I try, sometimes I will take a bit of a hiatus, or like a day or two, to regroup and just be without the expectation, or me putting the expectations on myself, or the pressure. So as far as that goes, if you go back into yourself for a day or two, and you take some time to evaluate, and like I said before, to put yourself back in check, you'll find that sometimes the universe will just send you exactly what you need, like someone reaching out and saying, hey, you're doing a great job, or something will be there, to really be like, okay, like I can go back to this, like something will always, at least in my opinion, always happens to where you'll be like, you know what, thank you, like I needed that, thank you so much, so.
Yeah, no, I thank you for that. And I think that's very healthy. Yeah, my dog's making much noise in the background. I think like it's true. Social media is a tricky thing because to your point, I do think it certainly serves my purpose and building a community, right, and connecting with one another.
Mhm.
But it's also horseshit. It's also like ridiculous. It's
Uh-huh.
so stupid. So I think it's important to like hold those both truths and allow yourself to kind of just like, hey, I'm using it in this way. It
Mhm.
provides meaning to me and my community, but it's also so silly and
Oh,
absurd.
I if I could hug you right now, I would. Yeah. I, you know, you use social media for everything. You need it. Like you do a podcast. You
Yeah.
have to build a community. You have to be active and like interaction with others. And I do the same. We do the same in different regard, but in this day, you need to have a certain aesthetic and everything needs to look a certain way and you need to have a certain amount of followers and it is horse shit.
Well, it's horseshit because you don't. There are no shoulds or needs or anything. Like,
Mhm.
and I think the sooner us humans realize that, the better we are because there's so much, horseshit. They're just kind of telling us, sort of lightly and then sometimes sort of aggressively informing us we need to operate a certain way and do certain things a specific way, and that's how you get likes and that's how you're valued. But that's meaningless.
Mhm.
What's meaningful is just being who we are.
Mhm.
You know?
It's funny how we get like you had said before, ahead of ourselves in our brains, thinking that that's what we may need to be or need to do, but we don't, in essence.
Right. Right. So, Brianna, can you give me just a couple of seminal moments in your mental health journey, a few moments that kind of stick out in your noggin as being integral in your own sort of path as a feely human?
Absolutely.
A couple that you just want to share?
So, as regards to, you know, as a generalized standpoint of mental illness, I have struggled with that since I can remember being able to think. um, from childhood, with a lot of internalized trauma. Um, I had always struggled with my mind, and I never really knew what it was until about the seventh grade. I thought I was just so. I've known that I was an empath from as long as I can remember, but that on top of the feelings of depression and feeling everybody else's emotions and the physical aspect and always feeling sick and not knowing what was going on with myself, wanting to hurt myself at a young age or, everything that comes with feeling that way.
Mm-hmm.
Until I was about seventh grade, there was an organization I had found online. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. To write love on her arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had come across that. I think it was on, I want to say MySpace or something to that degree. And they had talked a lot about depression, and I would read these things and be like, oh my God, like I'm not like this isn't just me. Like this is a real thing. I'm not just some worthless human who can't appreciate, I was a little girl. So when I had come across this whole community online of people who are coming together for the same things I was feeling, but standing up for it, whereas it was put down my whole life. Definitely made an impact on the start of my mental health journey.
You felt seen.
Yes, which is, I feel every human needs to feel seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was it? Your depression, how did it manifest prior to kind of that moment of that light bulb moment? Like, what did it look like in yourself? Can you remember?
Yes. So I'll try to explain this in the best possible way. I felt that I either felt like I was the only human to exist, or I was taken from somewhere else and thrown into this world of people who to be tortured. I remember being really young and writing, like I would write things because that was really my only outlet. And I would write things in my notebook and go into the bathroom and cry because, God forbid, I had cried in front of my family.
What would happen if you did?
I love my family with all my heart, but they're very much the kind of people who do suffer, but are indifferent towards it, and they don't really, they've adjusted so much that they are very content with living the way that they live, and to acknowledge that something is not okay would mean that they had to do something about it. And then they'd have to be looking at themselves and their life. And I don't think that they were ready for that.
Mm-hmm. Are they still like that?
Yeah, very much. Mm-hmm.
So you had felt that in them early on and realized, hey, I'm on my own.
Yes. Oh yeah, from a very, very young age.
That's hard.
Yeah.
And so you coped through writing in your journal. How else did you cope?
Not healthily.
Well, how could you?
Yeah. My coping was harmful. It was, internal hatred towards myself. Taking on the feelings of I'm not worthy of being seen, or I'm not worthy of being heard, or I'm not even an actual human, So a lot of that trauma turned inward to how I look and view and feel about myself. So as far as how I coped, I would say that I didn't have any healthy coping mechanisms. And I didn't even really understand what that was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't mean this to, I guess, cast aspersions on your parents, but what I will say is that using this as a sort of an example of like a lack of a safe space, right? Mm-hmm. And when we have safe spaces as humans, we do feel okay, and we do, or okay to express the things that we're feeling and to open up and to cry in front of our parents, or not be fearful to talk about like what's going on even, and try to process it in some way. But when it feels unsafe, and by unsafe, it doesn't mean like that's the thing that's so like hard about like creating a safe space is like you really truly have to kind of show up, because unsafety can just mean parents who aren't doing the work themselves emotionally, and that feels unsafe. That feels like, oh, I don't have a mirror here. And that's hard.
Absolutely. I think, and no disrespect towards any parent, but parents think, well, if I do right by my child, like I'm going to provide this and I'm going to give them everything. And you also have to take care of yourself. They watch and internalize and they see everything. So
that's priority number one. Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not a parent, but I'd imagine that is very challenging, because you've created life, and that is, your priority, and it is your joy and stuff. But, I just know personally, when it comes to sort of my family, my parents in particular, the safe spaces, they need to be there, and it comes from people doing their own sort of inner emotional work and knowing themselves, and it doesn't mean you can't get there like if you have kids prior to that happening, and many do, but it does mean you have to be willing to go there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have watched, something I question very much so is I have watched a good majority of my family cope with drugs and alcohol. And I'm not quite sure. I mean, this is where the nature-nurture, I guess, debate comes in, because I have never touched anything like that in my life to cope. So I guess you could either choose, like, oh, I watched this and I learned this my whole life, so this is what I'm going to use. Or you can use that and say, I watched this my whole life and I'm not going to use that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you in 7th grade, you come across this community to write Love on Our Arms, and what happens next for you?
Let's see. So I had discovered that online. I had started realizing that I needed to kind of understand what was going on with me, because at this point it was just a bunch of feelings, a bunch of hatred, a bunch of anger. Everything was wrong. I hated everything about life. I didn't want to be alive. And I started realizing that wasn't normal, even though that was my normal.
Were you self-harming?
Yes.
And you had suicidal ideation?
At that time, I wouldn't necessarily say suicidal ideation, whereas it was more of a I don't want to be in this pain anymore.
Sure.
So, I wasn't planning it out or, coming up with ways or fantasizing it in my head. It's kind of just I had the feeling of, well, I might as well not be here anymore, because what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah, I relate to that. Did you ever... did you ever feel like wanting to kind of just, even though maybe your parents wouldn't understand or however they would take it, did you have a feeling in your sort of gut that you just kind of wanted to like, look, I'm struggling over here. Here, this is my pain, or here are my scars, or did you ever have that sort of feeling?
Mm-hmm. I have, they know very well now. Um, at that age, it was looked at more as she's acting out. She's young and she's dramatic and it was very not taken seriously. It's
Ugh,
still not,
I hate
still,
that. It's so
yeah,
patronizing.
still very hurtful.
Yeah.
um, it's still not taken as seriously now, but I'm at a point in my life where I don't really need other people to understand as long as I know how to take care of myself. Um, of course, at that age, I couldn't.
Right.
I learned how, but at that point, I did open up specifically to my grandmother, who was the closest thing to me at that time. And, she would, urge my mother, please get her into therapy. Please, please do something. Like she needs help. You got to do something for her. But it was never, it was always kind of put aside. Like it'll go away, or she'll grow out of it, or it's, she's acting out. So it was never really a priority. And that goes back to the being seen.
Right. But were you being seen by your grandmother?
Yes, yep, but not, that would, like, she did not live with me or near me. So, having, she was my safe space. So, having a safe space that's not your everyday space, I'm grateful for it, but it was like very difficult to be around all these people, like bad Brie, like being dramatic, and then, and then being like, well, I need to step outside. I need to call grandma, and that, not being around it all the time, and like from your own mother, from your own father, from these people who are supposed to be, very tight knit with you. It's difficult.
Yeah. How did your parents react to your, wanting to connect with your grandmother and have that space?
Mm, mm. So my mother, she views it as, well, they're both the same. So, like, it's good that she has someone to talk to, because, my mother, everyone has their stuff, but she handles things in a much different way. And my grandmother is more of my grandmother was also an empath, so she can relate on a way that my mother could not. So having that sometimes created, a little resentment for some.
Sure.
Of course, understandable, but that's just how it was,
Yeah. So how long did that safe space last, and what was the next step for you? Did you eventually find therapy? Did you find other people to talk to?
Mm-hmm. So about 4 years ago, my grandmother had passed. She was very sick, so she had passed away, and about a year and a half after that, I didn't get out of bed. I was living with a friend at the time, and I barely ate. I barely did anything besides sleep or lay and stare at the wall. I didn't go to work. I completely withdrew from life in that kind of term. um, and it reached a point for me where I realized that I was either going to get up and do something, or I was going to die. And I didn't, as much as, I was feeling that way. I believe we all have this thing inside of us called hope. And no matter how deep down it is, or, how hard it is to see it, I think it's still there. And something in me knew I needed help, and I was, I needed to do something. And I had reached out to a few psychiatric hospitals and, centers, and I had some help, fortunately, from my friend's mother, who was very, very kind. She helped me find a few places, and I eventually found an amazing therapist so that was about 3.5 years ago now, I want to say, who I've been working with, and I have done miraculous work with her in terms of my growth and my mental health. So yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
A good therapist is hard to find.
Oh yeah. And she's very heart-centered. She's like she's very like holistic. Like I call her like my spiritual guidance counselor, or like my spiritual guru. Because I'm not against medication. I do need it, and I do believe that it is beneficial and helpful. But as far as for me, I am afraid of medications and pills, so I try my best to stay as natural and holistic as possible. So being working with someone who is on the same page as you is also very helpful.
Yeah.
So
what does that look like exactly? When you're talking about like a more holistic sort of approach to your mental health?
We do a lot of work in the core of my trauma. Like, we kind of dive into, you have a thought, and you turn that thought into reality. But where in your subconscious does this thought come from? There's something there, for me at least. There's always an underlying problem to my problems. And a lot of the situations I would find myself in every single day, or the people I was going after, or the friends I was making, or the thought that I was having that was making me sad. A lot of that came from the thoughts that I was having as a child. So.
And is that the core of your trauma?
My childhood?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
A lot of inner child healing.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, I'm with you. I think, like, I take medication for my depression, but I also think that it, like with anything, as I mentioned on this podcast probably a billion times, I think there's no, I think it's damaging and narrow-minded to think that, this is the right way, and also to think that me choosing to like take medication for my depression is going to be the right way for the remainder of time, right? Like things change, right? And also there has to be sort of holistic in the terms of you're looking at the whole, right? And like, for instance, yes, I'm on medication, but I also need to be outside and I need to have fresh air and I need to do breathing exercises and I need to stretch and I need to there's so many components to it. And I think as a culture, we get so sort of focused in on one thing and we like to kind of assign rights or wrongs to certain things. And I think that's damaging.
Oh yeah. Yep. I've seen, and I have tried a very large amount of medications over the years. And, sometimes it would be because I really couldn't stop wanting to sleep or, even though like I have a phobia, like I have a general phobia of pills and like the anxiety of what is this pill going to do if I put it in my body? Fear.
Do you have any specific fears? Like it's going to make me feel dumb or it's going to hurt my tum-tum or whatever?
As random as this thought may be, I have the fear that it's going to stop my breathing. I have this fear that I will be allergic to it and my throat will close and I'm not going to be able to breathe and then I'm going to die.
Yeah.
It's mostly the fear of something killing me.
So would you say you fear dying?
I do. As ironic as that is. Yeah.
Why is that ironic to you?
Because I feel, it's such a strange thing inside of me where I have this side where, I understand the wanting to die and the how a person can get to that point and how they can think about it and people almost romanticize it. And I've been there.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I still go there. And at the same time, you're afraid of it. So, well, I am.
Many are. I don't relate to that exactly because I don't really fear death as much as I just want to do a lot of things and I want to create an impact before I part ways with this pale blue wonder. But yeah, the sort of thinking about death is a thing that I never do, which is, I don't know if that's just me being a weird nihilist or just kind of being more zen, and I like to think the latter.
No, I'm glad that you don't have those thoughts. I'm very glad that you don't. And it's almost like in my experience, almost like, well, how do people not have those thoughts? Like how? Like, aren't they just there? Like aren't it's like it's normalized for me. So the fact that there are things you can, like, people who struggle with, everyone struggles with something different, but like the thought that you can struggle but not have those thoughts is hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you raised in a religious home at all?
I was. My parents are Jehovah's Witnesses,
Oh, okay.
and
Now we're getting into it.
and I am a gay woman.
Uh-huh.
So that was tough.
How has that been? When did you come out to them?
Not intentionally.
Yeah.
So my whole life, that I had known something was different. I hadn't been exposed to it in the slightest bit, so I didn't exactly know if am I a bad person for looking at women, or am I,
Yeah.
what's wrong with me, until I had met someone, and immediately I was like, that I know that I just know now I know. Until it was in front of my face and I was exposed, it didn't click for me.
How old were you at that time?
I was 19.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So remind me of how in the Jehovah's Witness religion, homosexuality is a sin?
Yes. So in the best way, because I'm not part of the religion, and I don't hold any negative emotions towards anyone who chooses to follow that religion. It's just not for me. So in the best, most neutral way that I can make sense of it is, Jehovah's Witnesses don't necessarily hate people who are of a different sexual orientation. They just require you to change that and choose to be different if you are to come into their truth, their religion.
Yeah.
They
I
would
mean, I'm sorry, and I appreciate your respectful way with which you said that, but from my perspective, that's so anti-human. Like I am very much, people can believe what they want to believe, and I think much of it is very beautiful and can provide so much meaning and structure for a life, and I think that's great and wonderful. But also when it's exclusionary, when it's frankly, I think it's anti-human to say that, like, someone like yourself who is gay and a beautiful person, to say that that person can't be a part of this community because of this natural attribute of their character, of their humanness, of their core. Like, that is, I think there are some universal rights and wrongs, and I think that is a universal wrong. I think community should be about inclusion and love and acceptance and kindness. I mean, I'm not a believer myself, but I was raised in a Christian home. That's what Jesus espoused. Jesus was about kindness and acceptance and loving one another, and those are beautiful messages, and that's what it should be about. But again, I don't want you to get in trouble with your parents. That's just my thing. And I'm sorry that you've had to navigate that.
Well, thank you. And no, I as respectful as I was trying to be here, I 100,000% agree with you. I was forced into that, and when I was a minor, because I did live under their household. But they had known that was not the way I was going to choose to pursue my beliefs. I very strongly believe in unconditional love, and that's a universal human thing. So I can't, I'm not going to look at you and say, I don't love you because you're gay, or I don't love you because you're choosing to do this with your life. First of all, being gay is not a choice. This is who I am. And I don't, in the Bible, how it says, love thy neighbor. It doesn't say, love thy neighbor under these conditions.
Yeah.
And you should treat every human, just because they're not living their life the way you are and they're not the same as you. Everyone deserves the same love and respect as you do, without judgment.
Amen, sister.
We can talk about it all day.
I appreciate that. So, are you an only child?
No.
Okay. Do you have, how many siblings do you have?
Oh, I have, from my birth father, I have 3, and from my mother, I have 1, and they're all boys.
Okay. Older, younger?
2 younger, 2 older. But I actually only know, like, I'm only very, like, close with the 2 younger ones.
Gotcha. Are you close? Are you close with them? Are they in the church?
My brother, who is from my mother, my brother who came from my mother, he was born into it.
Gotcha.
My other younger brother is from my birth father, and no, he's not in the church.
Are you close with them?
I'm close in terms of I speak to them and check up on them, but as far as like what a stereotypical brother and sister relationship would be, I'm not very close with anybody in my family in that regard.
How does that feel to you?
It feels very lonely. It's I've kind of adapted, as much as I hate this part of myself, I've kind of adapted this I'm walking through life completely alone mindset. As much as I believe, everyone needs each other and we should all be helping each other, it's like, well, no, I have to do this alone. I have, because I've been doing it alone my whole life.
That's what you knew, and it's the armor you've built up. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. It's a very lonely feeling, especially when you're in a not so good place.
Yeah. Is that a specific thing you're working on in therapy?
Yep. So something very specific that I'm learning, that I've been struggling with and working on, is learning that, first of all, boundaries. Second of all, learning that I am worthy of life regardless of, like, the way that other people treat me, especially, the ones in your family closest to you, is not a reflection of your worth or, your being your own person or what you're capable of in life.
Yeah,
So,
you're worthy, period. End of sentence.
Yep. It's its own sentence. It's a full sentence. So working on believing that is definitely something I've been working on.
So when you're going through this and you're sort of thinking about that and thinking that, like, oh, God damn it, I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. You have a hard time believing it. You have a hard time accepting it.
Yes.
When you are in that frame of mind, thinking you aren't worthy, what are the kinds of, what's going through your head? Are you thinking about specific aspects of your character that you don't like? Are you sort of finding the little nooks and crannies of yourself that you want to hate or whatever?
hmm So are you familiar with the term dissociating?
Uh-huh.
So I have learned in recent years that I dissociate when, like, my mind automatically will dissociate when not knowing how to cope
Hmm.
with thoughts. So I will go into this state where I just check out mentally.
Yeah, that's
Um,
it's a reaction to trauma often.
hmm but when I do that, it's almost like I am spiraling. Um, I I'll notice that, like, oh man, like I'm starting, like I can feel myself like not really in my body, like I can detect it better than I used to. Um, and I'll start with thoughts like, well, this happened, so I must not be that important, or, and then it'll gradually go to, what the hell's the point? Like I'm not, why am I doing this? Like, I just need to lay down. I need to lay down. Like, that the bed is like my sanctuary at that point, because depression, brain, or those thoughts get to you, it's so overwhelming that I don't feel like I can even walk. So the thoughts will just gradually, I'll think of everything bad that's happened and start almost blaming my existence on that.
Hmm. That's a lot to take.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have others in your life, aside from your therapist, you can talk about this type of stuff?
Absolutely. It took a while to find the right people. Because when you grow up lonely, you kind of accept anything. And then you realize, like, oh man, like I need to have people who care about me, and like a support system. And it took me a lot of weeding out your garden, if you're familiar with that, pulling out the negative, and distancing, and boundaries, and a lot has fallen out when you start to do what's best for yourself. And thankfully, I have found a handful of really amazing people in my life that not only have taken the time to know me, but they see me.
That's so
And,
lovely.
and that makes the world of a difference.
It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
It really is everything, like seeing each other and meeting people where they are. It's the ultimate gift. It's the ultimate sort of connection point to humans. And when we don't do that for each other, it's, it's isolating. It's not, it's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you have some people that can be that for you.
I'm extremely grateful, for the people that are in my life that do, care. And a lot of people are more, I feel like it's become a mindset of, well, what can this person do for me?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, who is this person, and I'm going to love them regardless of anything they do for me. And it's very hard to come across.
Yeah.
So,
are you in a relationship currently?
I am. I am currently.
How's that been going?
It's been great. It's a fairly new relationship. I've known my partner for a while, for a little while, and it's fairly new title. But it's been extremely eye-opening for me. in regards to prior relationships and their unhealthiness. You learn there's so much to be said about the healthy relationship you enter after the unhealthy one.
Yeah, 100%. So
There's
what have you learned?
so much about life and about myself and about what love really is. Just love on a general human basis, not, there's so much I want to say stigma about love in relationships, where you kind of adapt the behaviors that are given to you, and everyone, I believe, can become their own form of unhealthy or toxic or having different attachments or codependencies, and learning to be better for yourself, for the relationship you will eventually enter, makes a world of a difference. But I feel like you have to go through understanding what it shouldn't be first. Especially like when you yourself are not fully healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I that's interesting. I'm reflecting as I hear you say that. I'm reflecting on sort of the relationships that I had prior to meeting my wife, and I didn't have many of them. It was very few of them, actually. And I met my wife, I guess, I was 26 or so. It was 12 years ago. And I think where they failed is this idea we're talking about, like sort of knowing ourselves before we sort of start a relationship or have kids, like having a sense of like who we are before. At 26, I was a fucking mess. Like I was drinking way too much to sort of blindly sort of pacify my depression. I was not sleeping at all. I was I was still sort of processing my sort of recovery from anorexia. It was just all kind of raw, and I was still, most importantly, all sort of at the core of me not opening my heart. I was just so guarded, and so getting into relationships in that way was like so unfair for the people that I was with, because I wasn't showing up. I wasn't giving them my heart, and that's just deeply unfair. And so I guess, a roundabout way to say, I see what you're saying. You do learn, of course, and you should learn from past experiences. Yeah, I don't know. That was just a ramble.
Did you know at that point when you were going through all this and you were, afraid to, show up with your heart, did you know that you were still worthy of love, even though you were in this position?
Oh, man. I think it's maybe easy for me to say that, no, I didn't think I was. But I think the maybe more nuanced answer to that question is I didn't even have that language. I didn't even have like the maybe even emotional capacity to think in that way. I was almost living my trauma every day. And I was, because I was running away from it. I was ignoring it, whatever I was doing. And, I didn't there was a moment in, my wife really saved me in a lot of ways. Like there was a moment early on in our relationship. She had said like, you need to go to a therapist. Like this is not gonna work if you don't go to a therapist. Essentially what the conversation was. And I'm so thankful I did, and eventually, I mean, I had seen therapists before and kind of never worked out, but eventually found a therapist that really kind of helped. And, but yeah, to answer your question, I don't think I had that even capacity to think in that way, which is so sad. Like I look back and I'm just like sad for that.
But you can look back and
adult.
and be thankful you can think in that way now,
Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you for that. Absolutely. I am I'm making this show about me now, but I'll just say this last thing. I am so grateful that I am living my life the way I'm living it now, in leading with my heart and being vulnerable and thinking about connecting with other humans. Like it's so fulfilling. It's so enriching, and I feel like it's what we're meant to do, whether there's this higher universal power or God or whatever. I just feel like deep in my bones that that's just what we're supposed to do.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's all about that.
Absolutely. So one of the things I know about you, Bree or Brianna, which do you prefer, Bree or Brianna?
You can call me Bree.
Bree, is that you very beautifully write. You're a poet. You write these very beautiful poems and you put them out on Instagram, and I enjoy reading them. And I wonder where for you that started, and if it went all the way back to when you were a kid. Like, did it start there for you?
It did. Went from writing every hateful thing I would feel in a notebook where no one could find it, to writing stories about how I felt, and writing, my deepest thoughts about myself without having to say them out loud because I couldn't. And when I reached a certain point of language with myself, like you had touched base on how you weren't able to speak in a certain language at one point. You didn't even really understand what that was. I can relate. It wasn't until I started coming into my own when I came out that I realized, oh shit, I'm writing things like this is what I love doing, and people would know me as like the person who always sounded poetic in her advice, or like she's very empathetic, or like you turn everything into some sort of poem. And
that was the feedback you were getting from like friends and stuff?
Yeah. Like I see everything in the world as if it's written in a book, like the wind outside, or the pain in someone that I feel from someone else's heart, or the dread of the person at the coffee shop who I can feel inside. And the only way I know how to make sense of any of that is in words on a paper. And over the course of the last couple of years, it was almost my way of growing up, I want to say, or healing, was to acknowledge that this was something I enjoyed and I was good at and that I wanted to do with my life.
Isn't that a beautiful moment? Like I like that you said that, because it's true. There is such a huge part of being a grown up, or being just coming into our own identities, when you recognize a thing that you're like, this is my thing. This is my jam, and I want to do this thing. It lights me up. Like, what a wonderful moment that is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
It was a very prominent moment in my life when I began deciding that I wanted to share these thoughts without worrying about the judgment of others, which has in turn helped me get over that fear.
What was it like prior to that first share? What was going through your head?
Prior to opening an Instagram?
Yeah, prior to first like sharing these words and this vulnerability publicly.
It was very terrifying. I had the extreme fear of people judging me, people thinking something negative about me, people, as we have talked about, calling me dramatic, or thinking, oh, that's Bree, the one who suffers from mental illness, or this is the person who she's always sad,
She's
or
just that gay poet over there.
queer writer.
Yeah.
But all these thoughts would go through my head. Well, like I can't post this. Like, what if it's too much, or if it's too morbid, or people from school find my poetry. Like, are they gonna judge me? Like, all these thoughts that I had to sift out of my body and my mind, and say, you know what? Like, it's not by any means easy, but it was something that I felt so strongly about that I had to just let that fear or worry dissipate and put it aside and do something for myself for once. So,
I mean, that's amazing. I'm so grateful you did. When you did start sharing, did all your fears come true, or none of it? Were you met with what was the reaction like?
To be honest with you, if anyone has had any negative opinions about it, I haven't heard it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, if they do, then everyone's entitled to their opinion. Everyone's writing is not going to be for everyone. But I try to convey everything I write on a human level, so that it is something you can relate to. So any feedback that I have heard from people has been extremely encouraging, and I'm definitely very grateful for it.
And that really is the beauty of being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I think people connect to that. People want to see vulnerability. They want to see themselves in us. They want to see that this person, Bree, who I don't know, who's writing these beautiful poems online, like, I want to see, like, oh man, I see myself in this, like, oh, and that's a point of connection. That's a point of relatability and humanness. And again, that's what it's all about, right? And so when we can find these things that we're passionate about, your poetry, and me, this podcast, and other things, like, it's just, when we can sort of embrace that vulnerability and share, the reality is 99.9% of the time, we're going to be met with reciprocal beauty, right?
Yep.
And there will be trolls. Like, I'm thinking about my friend Laura Parker, who I had on the show. Her episode should be out now. Not out as of this recording, but anyways, she writes for BuzzFeed and writes a lot about her endometriosis and vaginismus. She has lots of pelvic pain and stomach pain, and she gets tons of just like douchebag fuck men who just like say sexist shit to her all the time. But and she likes to highlight it and call them out, which is hilarious. But the vast majority of things that she receives is just, from what I see, I mean, I can't speak for her, but it's kindness. It's like, it's empathy, it's relatability, and that's a gift.
It's refreshing.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing that? How long have you been sharing those poems online?
I've had the Instagram for about 5 years now. I did take a very long 1.5 year hiatus from it when I was sick. I kind of gave up on it. With all of the thoughts, that negativity that I had towards myself, I kind of just gave up on everything. And when I started going to therapy again and getting better, so I'd say I've been consistently on it again for 2 years, working really hard towards, having my content that I'm comfortable with, and trying to interact as much as possible and self-publish my first book, and really taking it more seriously and believing in my potential.
Yeah, that's all we can control, right?
Absolutely. What's meant to be will be.
I love it. We did get a couple of questions from, I think, your audience. Specifically, both are about your poetry. This one is from @JustinB.Fustin on Instagram. He says, I'm guessing it's a he, says, do you ever look at your older poems and see how your style / subject matter has changed?
I do. What's funny is that I will sometimes, if I'm feeling stuck or experiencing extreme writer's block, I'll go into my old stuff for inspiration. I'll read where I was at and what thoughts I used to have, and kind of transform that into the way that I would think now, because my language years and years ago is not the same language that I have today. And so in that regard, I try to write in a more, while I can write in my times of despair, I do try to write in a more hopeful tone.
This question's from Vanessa's Muse on Instagram. She says, how did you come up with the idea of drawing on your poems? Was it inspired by anyone, or did you just want to add a personal touch?
I love that, girl. So as we were talking about before, there is an expectation for the way your page needs to look on Instagram, I feel like, and I hate that.
Shed that. Don't even think about it, because it doesn't matter.
I hate it so much because not everyone. So many people have so many beautiful things to say, but it shouldn't matter what it looks like. And while I try to make a presentable page, and I try to make it my style, which would be, I'm very minimalist and simple, but I'm also kind of childish sometimes, and I can't draw. So the lines and the colors and the, minimalist font and the random line or shape that I draw on it is like a reflection of both sides of me, without feeling like I need to be a certain way, it's kind of my way of not being a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every shape is different. It's going to look different than yesterday. And this is how it feels. I'm feeling blue. So today it's going to be blue, you know?
Yeah. I think that's good. I think that's a good way to do it because it's a reflection of you and where you're at emotionally. As opposed to what's going to get me the most likes. What's going to, and I fall into that trap sometimes thinking about that. And it's just like, get out of that. That's not, who cares? Like, it's just like, why am I spending mental energy on this thing that doesn't matter?
Mm-hmm. If you do look at the page, it's kind of cool in retrospect for me, because I can look at it and if I do post consistently every day, one day it's pink and I can go back and see, well, yesterday I was yellow. So maybe like, even though today is blue, maybe tomorrow, you know, yesterday was a good day. And it's kind of like a mood board for me.
Yeah. It's like a journal.
Yeah. And that it's kind of cool to like look. Yeah.
I like that. Who are your, like, do you have any favorite poets?
Okay, so I'll have to say that my favorite poet of all time would have to be Sylvia Plath. If we're talking in regards to poetry these days, like more like this era,
Contemporary.
Contemporary. I have found a lot of poetry, like Instagram poets, that I have read their stuff and their work, and it has hit me, you know, like very deep, even if, you know, they didn't have a book written yet, or just like the whole community, the way that they express themselves, certain writers online. But overall, I would definitely have to say it would be Sylvia Plath.
Yeah, she was talented for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I will just say, I'm going to correct you if I may, and say you're not an Instagram poet. You're just a poet, right? Like I feel like we put these sort of like, so when I hear someone say like Instagram poet, or it's almost like it's a diminishment in a way. It's like, oh, they're not a poet, they're just an Instagram poet or whatever. But you're creating words in a way that's poetry, right? You're writing poems, which makes you a poet, right? Which makes you a writer. Yep. You're not an Instagram writer. You're not an Instagram empath. You're just an empath.
You're absolutely right. No, and thank you. Yeah, like thank you for, you know, correcting that, because it is almost degrading to say, or diminishing to say, oh, you know, they just share their stuff online. They're not actually a writer.
Right.
It is, and I feel like that's a societal thing that's happened.
Totally.
With the development of social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's I think there's also like a level of snootery and highfalutenness in the world of just writing in general and publishing that I've witnessed. You know, because you said like, even though they don't have like a book published or whatever, and I think there is a, it's, I mean, I sort of used to work with a lot of different writers on like manuscript strategy and publishing strategy and stuff. It's hard to get a book published, especially traditionally nowadays, right?
Mhm.
And it's also a lot of times it's about connections and it's weirdly sort of political. So, you know, I also think, you know, I guess for any for you, Bree, and for anyone listening who do consider themselves a writer or poet, you know, you are, because that's what you do. That's what, you know, occupies your time. That's what you're passionate about. You don't have to have like a New York Times bestseller to call yourself a writer or a poet.
Mhm. Mhm. It's not about. It's about your heart and your intention, and not the feedback.
It's about creation, not achievement.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Should we talk about empathy heroes?
The heroes. Let's do it.
Okay, so listeners, this is the part of the show where my guests and I, each of us, mentioned someone in our lives who is an empathy hero, i.e., they have great capacity for empathy. Could be someone we know personally, could be a character from a novel or a movie, doesn't matter. My empathy heroes this week are two, Michelle and Connor. Michelle is the mother of Connor, and earlier this week, Michelle posted an Instagram story of her son Connor in a Yumi Empathy t-shirt, and it melted my heart. And I was like, I have to get that picture, and I shared it on Instagram, on the Yumi Empathy Instagram feed, with little Connor and his little sort of Yumi Empathy t-shirt, and it made me so happy. And then as a result of that, Connor's kindergarten teacher saw the t-shirt and said, I love that, I need that, and then also ordered a t-shirt, which just kind of made my day. And so, Michelle, if you're listening, thank you, and thank you for creating little Philly humans, and making the world more feely, with your support. So thank you.
It's very cute.
I know, it's the cutest.
Oh.
So yeah, they're my empathy heroes. How about you, Brie?
So is it just someone in my life that
It could be someone you know personally. It could be even an author you love, a quote that you love. It could be, it could be Sylvia Plath. It could be a character from a movie that really moved you as someone being very empathetic. Really, anyone.
So then I would have two people. The first one is a very close friend to me, Vanessa.
Of the famous Vanessa's Muse?
Yes, that's her.
Oh my gosh, Vanessa, you're famous.
You Vanessa, you're just everywhere. She has become family to me, especially in the most recent change in my life. She's been like pretty much my backbone when I need it, when I need to be called back into myself or reminded of my potential, or just to be heard out and seen. And I've learned the importance of having good people in your life who genuinely care about you because of her. So I love you, Vanessa. And if you are listening, thank you, even though I will tell you all the time. And another person is actually Jamie Twerkowski from To Write Love on Her Arms. It was recently National Suicide Prevention Week, and just the work and listening to Jamie's book, or reading Jamie's book and listening to and watching how much empathy he has towards the topic of suicide prevention and substance abuse and depression. It really just makes me feel like I can feel his heart. I don't even know him, but but
Yeah.
it makes me feel hopeful that there is, like, when he says you're worthy, you know, people need other people, things like that, you believe it, and you can feel his heart through his language, and I think that's such a beautiful thing, and I feel heard, even though it's not a personal conversation.
Yeah.
So that was another person who is my empathy hero.
Oh, thank you for sharing, and good for you, Vanessa and Jamie. And apparently I need to read more about Jamie, because of course I've heard of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I should try to get him on the podcast. That would be fun.
Absolutely should. And if you are interested in reading his book, would be glad to send you a copy, because I have a bunch of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'd love one. Let's share your where people can connect with you and all that stuff.
All right. So I don't currently have a website, but I am at Instagram at Brianna Pastor, BriannaPastor, and on Twitter as Bree Pastor. That would be BreePastor. Great.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bree, very much for being a guest on You Me Empathy. I appreciate, I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing about your struggles and your triumphs, and I'm very glad and happy to know you.
I'm happy. I'm very happy to know you, and I'm very glad. Thank you for, having this conversation with me, and for also sharing, parts of your journey as well.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And to you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's You Me Empathy.
Love.